Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Sunday as we watch showers moving in pretty much on schedule. And I have them plotted here over the surface map, and you can kind of see what's happening. There's a bit of a warm front that's setting up, and it lines up just about, well, it's kind of tricky to find. So I'm going to see if I can do a job here. It's there. It's kind of like this. All right. And to the north of that front, we are seeing some onshore winds to some degree. It's not the strongest front in the world, but it does kind of separate the warmer air. You'll notice that it's in the 80s in south central Pennsylvania and north central Maryland. We've got upper 70s throughout parts of southeastern Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey, and then you start to get into the 60s. Which is dominating the weather scene, and even some 50s now in parts of Pennsylvania. So we've got an impressive enough thermal profile here that we are getting some rain and showers, and even a few heavier downpours in the areas in yellow. These are the radar echoes that I have here superimposed over the surface map. And when we look at the actual radar itself, you'll see the area here. It's generally moving east, maybe south of due east. Of the southern edge of the rain seems to be lining up along and north of Route 78. So if you are in central and south Jersey, but particularly if you're in South Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania, south of Route 78, you probably won't see much of any rain for the rest of the daytime period. We're in the middle of the afternoon here. So it should stay basically dry going into this evening. Now, some of those showers are now moving into parts of Long Island and into western Connecticut, at least on the radar, but they are over the Hudson Valley and covering all of the northern half, pretty much all of the northern half of Pennsylvania and into northern New Jersey. Now, elsewhere today, we do have some activity going on across the Gulf states, and a lot of this is being moisture enhanced by the remnants of Tropical Storm Beartriz, the Pacific tropical system that is sitting in the southern Gulf of Mexico. The remnants are in the southwest Gulf, but a lot of that moisture is getting entrained northward. And we do have an upper air disturbance. You can kind of see how the radar echoes are spinning counterclockwise here back through Oklahoma and Texas. So we are seeing some showers and heavy thunderstorms. It's a pretty mid-afternoon. We've got a fairly decent line of storms here in southwest Louisiana. Also some showers and storms across Arkansas, scattered through Tennessee, parts of Kentucky, into Georgia, scattered through parts of Alabama. It really kind of has a late spring, early summer look to it on the radar. And out in the west, for now, we've got a band of showers that are moving up from Oregon and southeastern Washington state into Idaho. And when we look what the Storm Prediction Center has, they actually have a slight risk of severe weather for later this afternoon into tonight for that area in the northwest. As far as what we see in the Gulf states, it's embedded in a general area of thunderstorms, but severe weather is not being indicated here. Although I think these cells are going to be more the type that produce heavy rains rather than the gusty winds and hail, although not impossible, or the types of thunderstorms where you might see tornadoes out of it. I'm thinking this is just going to be more along the lines of general thunderstorms with heavy rains, although there is a marginal risk for parts of South Texas. And then up into the Ohio Valley, this narrow strip from Illinois through Indiana, the embedded slight risk in Ohio and western Pennsylvania. This area was a little more extensive earlier. It has been somewhat reduced. And we have this marginal risk up in parts of northeastern Wisconsin and into the upper peninsula of Michigan. So when we look at this on the satellite loops, and I'm going to take you first to the eastern satellite loop, and there you see that spinning upper air system back through Texas and Oklahoma, and these thunderstorms that are getting enhanced. And you can also see some of the moisture with the remnants of Beatrice, which I'll show you specifically about this in just a little bit toward the end, because there really isn't too much to look at with regards to this weather system. And when we look to the western satellite view, here's that Pacific moisture that's streaming up northeastward into Oregon and on up into Idaho and Montana, where we have that indicated risk of severe weather. And you can see from the visible satellite loop, by the way, here's that morning coastal fog along the coast of Baja California on northward up to just south of San Francisco, just kind of burning off from north to south. And then you've got all this Pacific moisture that's sitting out offshore. So where are we going with all this weather-wise over the next few days? So let's take a look. I'm going to put up the GFS. We'll look at a couple of models and see where this is all going to play out for the next couple of days. So, one of the problems I'm having this afternoon is trying to figure out which model has the right idea with this rain to the north. And the GFS kind of takes that area, holds it up slightly until after dark, and then it really starts to move it southeastward into all of central and south Jersey and points southward, and also Long Island, and then it moves that out. Here's a second wave, part of that system that's coming out of the south, out of Texas and Oklahoma. You have low pressure in Virginia that's moving northeastward, and it does bring in some rain Monday afternoon into Monday night, but a lot of the other models are kind of shying away from the northern extent of this and keeping more of the rain further south. And then on Tuesday, some models have this area of leftover rain and showers with the upper air storm inland and west, like the GFS does, while some other models have the rain concentrated further east and more along the coastline. So, when you get into a situation like this, I think given the circumstances, and those circumstances being that we have this large upper air storm in the east, and you can see it here on the upper air map. We had this trough move off the east coast yesterday, but what's happened is part of it, most of it moves off, but part of it kind of stretches back right in here, and it's picking up this shortwave trough that's dropping down in the flow from the upper Midwest, and then a new upper air storm begins to deepen across the northern Great Lakes, and it swings that and drops it southeastward. So you're talking now, this is Wednesday morning, and we still have this upper low in western Pennsylvania, and now we're into Thursday, and it's still over the east. So I think this is going to mean for unsettled weather conditions through much of this week until this thing can finally start to pull away, which happens on Friday. And then we have another disturbance behind it that weakens with time going through next weekend. This will eventually allow a ridge to build in the east early next week. So we may have some warm weather coming early next week for a few days until that ridge breaks down. Looks like it wants to build starting on Sunday night. So this would argue that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in the east could be very warm to downright hot in spots before the next cold front comes through later next week and moves out. And then we have another ridge maybe toward the end of the period that's pushing up toward the Great Lakes. But we'll have to see what the reality is with regards to that. So I'm just going to put the upper air up here on the wide view and show you what's going on. So let's go back just a bit. We'll take you back. This is Thursday and Friday. So you can see how this upper low begins to stretch, moves out, and starts to, most of it winds up moving to the east, but then you've got this long bend back that goes way back through here. So this next arm winds up swinging around. You have a trough along the west coast. You have a ridge that's built up in the Rockies, and this is going to rotate down and around, and it's got work to do because that upper low, doesn't just swing down and out. It hangs around for a couple of days until something upstream in this long jet comes along and kicks it out, which it finally does. And then after that, again, we're looking now into early next week where we could have several days of very warm to hot weather with a ridge in the east until finally something can come through in the form of a cold front to cool it down. So very interesting weather pattern from that respect. Now in the west, I just want to show you that we do have a very deep trough. This was indicated yesterday, and let me just back it up. We do have a very deep trough that's coming into the western part of the United States toward the end of this week, and you can see it here right in there, this strong upper air storm that comes in to the Pacific Northwest. and that is going to have some impact on the weather in the west. As that trough sticks around, you get this big ridge in the east, you're going to wind up with a deep trough in the west like this. So, you know, the signature is there. Here's your deep trough in the west. Here's the big ridge in the east. You know, and this is not a surprise. You know, these ridges in the east keep popping up from time to time. Seems like every time they do pop up, they seem to be lasting for shorter and shorter time frames. This one, if correct, would last for about 3 days, which, you know, would probably, I would say, be about average with regards to ridges in the summertime. Sometimes they can last for 5, 6, 7, 8 days, and sometimes, you know, some years you've had it where these ridges are almost semi-permanent, and they can go on for weeks or even a month or two at a time in the overall scheme of things. In the west, it's not often that you see that little bubble of snow, but there's that system. You know, on Thursday, something comes into the Pacific Northwest, and now as that deep trough takes over, we've got, you know, rain and even some mountain snows in parts of Idaho and Montana going into next weekend, and even into parts of the mountains of Oregon into California, into the Sierra Nevadas. There'll be some June snows out of this with that deep troughing. Hard to believe. Even some in the northern Rockies here on Wednesday, if this is correct. You know, Miles has been showing this for a few runs now, so I don't want to completely discount it. And then once that goes by, if that ridge in the east finally gets out of the way, and the trough in the west finally also gets out of the way, we'll see the weather in the western part of the United States normalize later in the 2-week period. So now we're past the middle part of June and moving on to June 20th. All right, let's quickly look at what was going on with the system in the Gulf of Mexico, which the Hurricane Center is still indicating 0% chance of development. Shower and thunderstorm activity diminished this morning into early this afternoon. And, you know, to tell you honestly, given the circumstances of what we're seeing here, here's a satellite view of it. These are strong westerlies that extend down into the Gulf of Mexico. If we go back to the eastern satellite, you can kind of see it here. You've got these clouds all being blown away to the east with the, you know, regularity here. There's this upper air system that's back through here, and you've got these strong westerlies aloft. So that's just basically shearing the tops of these thunderstorms apart. If you want to kind of illustrate it, the way it works, you know, the tropical systems like a calm environment. You know, as you go up the atmosphere, these thunderstorms develop and the cloud tops build up. But if you have these strong westerly winds, just think of like if you piled up shaving cream in a pile, as long as there's no wind around, that shaving cream is going to, you know, stay reasonably in position. But if I took a fan and as we move up, as that shaving cream gets higher and comes into the area where the fan is blowing the wind, the tops of that shaving cream is going to get blown off. Well, the tops of the thunderstorms get blown off. So as a result, these systems can never really truly organize. And that's what you have down here with regards to this. All right, so let's keep our eyes on what happens with this rain here in the Northeast as we give you one last look at the radar. And I'll just freshen it up and zoom it in before I say goodbye. And there it is. So hopefully it stays in those areas as indicated by my forecast, which you can subscribe to if you download my app and subscribe to my specific weather forecast for this area for eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, New York City, and the Hudson Valley. We can download this app for free, and you can subscribe to the forecast for just $1 a month, and you can just pick your zone for where you want, and you get my forecast at least twice a day. You don't get some computer automated stuff. I've put my stuff, my forecast, my opinions, and they are updated. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you would. All you got to do is hit the little red subscribe button on the channel page here, and you will get notifications when my videos come up, which is at least once a day. And that is absolutely free and will stay that way. And by the way, you can download the app. I will put a link up at the top of this video. You'll see a link up here from time to time. You can click on that, and it'll take you to the download page, and you can go from there if you so choose. Okay, everybody have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.